Krishna Raj Rao. I'm part of Adarsh Palm Retreat Villas. I'm going to be talking about water conservation only. So this is hopefully in 3 minutes. A quick background, Adarsh Palm Retreat is a wider community, but it's an 800 villa community. We will have about 2040 or 2100 apartments as well. Of the villas, we have currently about 60% occupancy. In the apartments, we have about 55% occupancy as of today. The overall community requires about 12 to 14 lakh liters of water per day. And the villa community is about 50% of that. 6.5 lakh liters for the 60% occupancy, which is about 450-60 villas right now, consume that much. We have a centralized water treatment plant, and our distribution system is through the pressurized system, which is we don't have any overhead tanks or underground sump per villa. It's one common underground sump, and it's pressurized water system. So I want to break my presentation in 3 parts. One is the water sources. Where do we get water from? One is water consumption, where it goes, and we'll quickly talk about how we went about trying to conserve. And to me, conserve is just to try to save, but it's about water sustainability. It goes a little bit beyond that. So it's a journey I want to just talk about, and I'm sure none of what I'm going to talk about today is going to come as a surprise to anyone. It's just going to reiterate the same thing. But if there's one takeaway from our experience, then it'd be worth it. So our water sources are BWSSB, tanker supplies, and external tanker supplies, and borewell, internal borewell. Our effort for the last 1 year, we track this every day, every month. It varies. So the tanker supply varies with respect to how much water we get from Kaveri. And our efforts on the borewell rejuvenation and improvement has overall resulted in less dependence on external supply. And on the consumption side, our primary consumptions are villas, and then we also have a clubhouse, maintenance, security. Each villa currently has a mechanical water meter, and our average size is 5. For the villa, there is also the overhead of gardening, water for the gardening and car wash and all of that. So the reflective questions that I think we ask ourselves are, how do we augment our water supplies? How do we don't have much control over BWSSB, we get once in 3 days and things like that, but the goal is to become self-sufficient in our water needs. So and on the consumption side, how do we reduce or regulate our consumption? And it's a constant effort. How do we pay for it? And in all the efforts that we do, who's going to pay for it? And what is the social cost of the reckless water consumption? And it's not just the Kaveri water, right? So the early observations solutions are very contextual. It depends on where you stay, how much support you get from the community, and the affordability. Our water consumption bill on average is about 2,500 to 3,500 rupees per villa. It's relatively very high, but for the villa community, it's less than a dinner with the family. So they may not think much about it. So that's one of the challenges actually. So on the consumption controls, so on the consumption controls, what we went through were we mandated water aerators for each villa. It was mandatory through a bylaw change through our GBM. We banned the usage of hose pipes for car wash, and we get hefty fines for anybody who uses hose pipes for car wash. We also have given provision to use this treated water for the side yards and the backyards if you want to use them. We also have tiered water slabs. The high consumers pay above average and low consumers pay below average. And we also have training sessions for maids and residents. I found out that the kitchen tap is the most widely used tap. It's about at least 20 to 25% of your consumption. So training the maids goes a long way, and also training the residents. So we have a lot of sessions of that. And we also analyze monthly water, the villa meter readings. I think data is the key. Analyzing really helps. So when it's just 1 month chart I just showed as if you just see, if you detect that the water consumption is going up, sure there's a leak. And you can predict this, and you can go look for it, and you do find leaks. And we also track, how many people are consuming 0 to 15 kiloliters and so on. The point I'm trying to make is that, there are 2 kinds. One is the highest consumers 15% of the consumers consume like 1/3 of the water. So tracking, and most of the high consumers maybe because of some leaks in the house or they don't even know. So what I call is this time to insight is how quickly you can figure out is the key. So looking at the data, in our villa community itself, in the last 2-3 years, on average, it was 50 kiloliters per month per villa. It has come down to like 32 kiloliters per month. This includes the watering of the gardening and all that. So it's still a long way to go. It's still twice that of the average. All right. So the next steps is basically, just 30 seconds, is to adopt new technologies like smart water meters. So we can cut down the time to insight from 1 month where you take the meter readings to like 1 day. So on the water supply findings, we want to avoid dry taps, but at the same time, it's really difficult to track real-time supply and existing water levels. So what we have done is we have taken care of our borewells, flush the borewells, figure out the right pump size, and take care of the borewell timings, the pump timings. We do have our villa community situated on a shallow aquifer, so it is what we call as a Matundu Kaveri, another Kaveri. It's a really good source of water for us, and we're trying to tap. We built about 31 rainwater harvesting wells, and we want to continue this further and withdraw wells, and all of them have water. So we want to tap into it and use that to augment our water source, and overall we feel like we can get there. And there are obviously the tangible ones, our solutions. We pay ourselves. If you basically take how do we pay for it, right? If you use your own borewells. If you didn't have that borewells, you would have bought water from a tanker. So if you're using that borewell, don't subsidize it by just charging electricity rate or giving it for free. Charge it at whatever rate you would have bought water at if you didn't have that. So if it's a tanker rate, it's 104 kiloliters or 100 rupees per kiloliter. Charge that to yourselves and use that fund to pay for the rainwater harvesting wells and things like that. That's a really productive way for us to pay for all the efforts that we're doing. That's one of the key takeaways I have.